Hey guys, I just wanted to make a short video about my build and why it's built that way and what it's for. Um, I don't do any elite queues. I don't, generally get in a team unless it's a pickup group. And as a consequence, what I need to do is knock out as much um, trash mobs as I possibly can as fast as I can. I don't, well, let me just start at the beginning. So, what I'm flying is the D7 Miracle Worker flight deck carrier. This is one that's from the, Mud Store, I guess. And it is also a promo box ship, but I did not pay for that. That is one I got free from the last, whatever it's called here, the event campaign. That's what I spent my box on. Now, I would much rather have the Constitution. It's the exact same ship. There's two ships here. You have to pick one. But I went with this one because it's got the good trait. So starting with that ship, I'm of course running Type 7s. Now, this build will work completely fine without any carrier at all. You can do this with, let's see here. Basically anything. I don't think there's a ship here I couldn't do this with. The Domino is not a very good ship. It's for a trait. That's all it was good for. But here's another carrier that you can get off the C store. Problem is that trait is nice to have. We'll go into that in a minute. Let's see. This is the ship I generally fly. This is just a Fleet Gagarin. It's imperative when you pick a ship, if you're doing what I'm doing, to always look for Miracle Worker. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, why? What possible skills does Miracle Worker bring to the table? None. I don't use any of that crap. I don't use Miracle Worker. I don't use Temporal. I don't use the other ones, whatever they're called. I honestly don't recall what they're called because I don't use that crap, and I'll tell you why. All of it is a trade-off. Very few, if any, of those oddball skills they introduced. It's like plus 10 damage minus one left arm. Every one of them's the same way. They all do the same thing. It's all a trade-off. They were afraid they were going to overpower something. So all of this junk, the pilot junk, the temporal junk, the intelligence junk, it's very situational. It's very specific. It's very niche. You have to be doing something in a specific way to make any use of it all. And every time you push the button, you've buffed this and you've gimped that. That's how they work. And frankly, the old skills weren't that bad if you picked the right ones. Furthermore, I don't do unconventional systems. I don't even have the trait. I don't need it. I have no use for it. Unconventional systems allows you to use your consoles much faster. You got this skill here. Let's see, subspace fracture tunnel, which will make your, I believe this is the one. Yeah, reduce recharge times of universal consoles by 25%. That sounds great. And if you've spent God knows how many thousands of dollars on a bunch of consoles that are clickies that do a lot of damage, then yeah, it'd be nice to have those. But who's going to spend that kind of money? Why would you do that? It makes no sense. The only things that I will buy from the C store, that's it. I will occasionally buy something from the exchange if it's reasonable, and I'll show you some of those things here in just a second. Well, let's start with the build. So here's the ship. This is a ship we're flying. I'm running a rainbow weapon setup. I never thought I'd say those words out loud. But, and there is a better combination of this. I went with some of the stuff I already had, but like this weapon here, the Terran Task Force weapon, if you look there, let's see if I can make that stay up. Yeah. So if you look here, every weapon I have has been re-engineered to damage. Because it's guaranteed. There's no proc involved. Damage times 3 means I'm going to get that little bonus to damage 3 times every shot. Proc kind of sucks. Proc is nice if it's a really high proc, if it's something that's going to go off like 20%, but very few are. This one's proc, I'm sure, sucks. Let's see here. Yeah, 2.5% chance to apply a stack or withering radiation. You might as well throw that one away. That thing's never going to get to go off. The goal of this build, like I said at the beginning, is to eliminate trash in the fastest way possible. Now, what does that mean? That means that ideally you're one-shotting trash mobs, and I use beamfire at will, so I'm one-shotting multiple trash mobs at the same time. I would have the dark matter torpedo, but I don't, because I got away without it, because I'm getting my 2-piece from the phaser wide angle here from Discovery Rep, and of course the console. I believe it's this one. Yeah, Lorca's Custom Fire Console. So those two get me the 2-piece. Now, why do I want the 2-piece? Let's see here, more details. On crit, 1% critical severity buff. Stacks 25 times. Lasts for 20 seconds. Them 25 stacks come in a hurry. If you're dealing with massive amounts of trash, which most of your events are, that is how you get rid of them. More critical severity. There are 3 things you need. You need critical chance, you need critical severity, and you need haste. Why do you need haste? It isn't just about blasting one mob to death. It's about blasting dozens, sometimes maybe hundreds of mobs to death. Some of the TFOs that they use for events are just trash piles. It's unbelievable how much junk there is to kill. And so the goal is to shoot a mob, that mob blow up, and be shooting another mob as fast as you can. You need to be switching targets, which the game will do for you. But you need to be, eliminating a target and getting to the next target as quickly as humanly possible. About the only mistake I've got on this is this one. Everybody said this is the gun, the Pavin Proton Beam Array, and I don't disagree that this is a good gun and maybe the best in slot for an Omni if you're dealing with a mob that's going to survive more than one hit. I say that because of this. More details. So you scroll down here to what this thing does, and the reason everybody likes it is right here. 33% chance of resonant charge. Resonant charge is great. If your mob's going to last for 60 seconds, it's greater. If your mob's lasting for 60 seconds with your build, when you're playing a TFO, it better be the crystalline entity, because nothing else should live that long. Nothing else should live beyond one shot if at all possible. So 1% resonance charge to target, up to 10 targets max apparently for 60 seconds. But how are you going to switch to 10 different targets if that first target is still alive for 60 seconds? Even with beamfire at will, you're not going to hit that many and have that counting down 60 seconds. They're going to be dead. That's going to be wasted. Then you get all this proton damage, and there's where your big kick comes in, and to 3 nearby enemies. And if any of those enemies are tough, if you're doing elites, this thing's great. But when you're harvesting trash, this thing, honestly, I don't think I ever get a resonance charge. I don't know. I can't imagine anything that lives that long. And the same goes with almost any normal mode TFO. There are a precious few things I can think of right off the top of my head that might last 60 seconds. If you were soloing a normal mode Borg TFO, you might get one. But unless you're doing advanced or elite queues, that thing honestly is not. I mean, if you, say you were to go over and pick yourself a patrol, I don't think there's a tough ship in a patrol. I mean, not one that you're just going to have to beat on for a full minute. I don't understand that. Anyway, moving on. All these rainbow guns here, with the exception of this one, because you can only have one set Omni, is reputation. And the reason for that is right there. Let me point out the thing I'm at. Well, it doesn't show up when you do that. But if you look at the description when I scroll over it, you'll see there in green, 2% bonus all damage. The reason for that is I've got tier 6 in all of my reputations. That's free. That doesn't cost you any dollars. So every one of my weapons here, as you'll notice, has that 2% bonus, except, of course, for that piece of junk. We'll come back to him. Now, every little bit of bonus damage helps. Your traits. Let's look at the traits. So in my traits here, now you might wonder about Grace Under Fire. Taking damage can reset recharge on miraculous repairs. Remember, I primarily solo, or I do pickup groups for event campaigns. I do my solo, like your missions you get over here in your... Where is it? Right here. All your little Starfleet missions, your episodes and stuff, that's primarily solo content. And so you need to be two things. You need to do as much damage as you possibly can, generally to trash. And second, you got to survive. Well, having miraculous repairs come back, because I always play engineering captains, because I like the ability to heal. If you are in a organized group and you're the damage dealer and you got 4 other people healing you or buffing you so that you don't have to think about that kind of stuff, then engineering captain is probably not for you. You might be better off with something else. If you're sitting there trying to chase DPS numbers, you got to remember most of those DPS numbers are full-on nonsense. It doesn't matter what you can do if you've got 4 guys supporting you. What matters is what you can do all by yourself. That's the effectiveness of your character. There is no effectiveness of your character if you've got a guy stand behind you pounding you with heals and the 2 other guys buffing your damage up to levels you could never achieve on your own. That doesn't make you bad. That makes them bad. They're the badasses, and you're kind of just standing there shooting your gun. I mean, in reality, you're not measuring what you can do. You can measure you're measuring what you can do with 4 people supporting you. So the numbers really don't tell you anything. This character is made to survive and to do damage all by himself. And when you're in a pickup group, if you think you're not all by yourself, you're kidding yourself, because basically everybody's after the same goal. Finish the mission as quick as humanly possible. And they are going to go off and they're going to do their own thing. They're each going to take their side or whatever it is. Each TFO is different, but they're all going to go to the points they're supposed to be at, and you're expected to survive that all by yourself, because there is nobody coming to save you. Nobody is going to come rushing in with a heal. It'd be the wildest stroke of luck. They got their own problems to deal with, and you got yours, and you need to be able to deal with yours. Now, this, like I said, lets you have miraculous repairs back fast, and if you're flying an engineering captain, that's a great thing to slot, and if you're not, that would be useless, and I don't think it's even available to you. Next, we got crit chance, crit severity. Can't go wrong there. Next, we got Warp Theorist. What's that crap? Oh, that boosts my warp core potential. That means my power levels. Starship Electroplasma System. That is when your weapons fire or you do other things that consume a bunch of your little energy bars down here on the lower right. That makes it come back faster. Basically, you've taken energy from that, and it needs to come back, and that is one of the things that really helps you with that. Boimler effect. This is kind of a dice roll. It does help, and it does work, and it works often enough that you need to slot it. But I hate random chance crap. I would much rather this be, instead of a % chance, a % increase. But the way it works is it kind of stacks. So I've got other things that do that. But if you read it there, 17.5% chance to recover the recharge time of all other bridge officer abilities. So every time I fire off a bridge officer ability. Now, some things don't count. Let me scoop my window a little so you can, whoop, that's not my window. There we go. So this counts. Photonic officer, amazingly enough, counts. Emergency power to weapons, that counts. Torpedo spread counts. This counts. This counts. This does not count. None of my bridge officers have that. This one is a bridge officer. So all of these, everything but this one, all that stuff there, minus this green one, I have a 17.5% chance to reduce my cooldowns, which gets me back beam fire at will faster, emergency power to weapons faster, and so forth. That's a good thing. You want that. This works more the way I kind of wish Boimler effect worked. This reduces recharge time of bridge officers by 2% each second for 20 seconds. And as you see below it, it is getting the bonus there, 17.5% chance of also cooling down. So it not only cools down your bridge officers, but the act of using it, you've got another 17.5% chance. This top bar is my spam bar, and that's all that's on it. Everything else is a clicky that is, it's used, it's clicked, but it's mostly every time it turns dark lighted up. I don't have clicky consoles that do damage. I just don't have a need for that. We'll go into that in a minute. Okay, so my next thing we got here, Intelligence Agent Attaché. This was kind of a, I need something to stick in a hole. On critical strike, you restore 2% of captain ability recharge. The fact that it's a flat rate, 2%, 2%, 2% per crit, the amount of crits that I produce is quite stunning. So as a consequence, this thing is actually paying off a lot bigger than you would think. It is a crit fest when I open up, which is how it should be when you're dealing trash mobs. You're trying to kill everything in one shot and move to the next target as quickly as you can. This one, Bulkhead Technician, maximum hit points. There's a reason for that, and that has to do with needing more hit points for some traits. Some traits, the more hit points you got, the better they are. I'll show you that in a second. So hull hit points, hull levels is a big thing to have. This, crit severity and minus threat generation. Now you might be like, well, you're playing an engineer. Why wouldn't you want to taunt or have any threat generation? Because I don't like having a big target plastered on my back, particularly for no reason. I'm not the tank. I'm the one-man army. That's what you have to be in pickup groups, and that's what you have to be when you're solo. Taunt and threat generation aren't going to help you, harm you, or do anything when you're solo because you are the only target. In most cases, once in a while, you'll have a friendly NPC with you, and as a consequence, you can have a situation where you might want to take attention away from them, but it is rare. Generally speaking, when you go in a pug group just spam and taunt and trying to be the center of attention, you're going to get just what you ask for, and all torpedoes belong to you. It's not a good way to be. So minus threat and plus crit severity, I will happily take more damage output and less damage input any chance I can get it. Now here we have Ethereum beam enhancements. Now I don't know how I got that. I don't know if that, I assume that came from a lockbox. I don't know if I bought it off the exchange or if I was burning up some free keys and got it, but one way or the other, I did not pay for it with cash because I only pay for C-store stuff with cash. That's just how it is. I just will not pay to gamble. I'll take my free keys. I'm a lifetime subscriber, so I get 500 Zen every month, and I will spend that on keys sometimes. But I don't take any real money and insert it into keys. And quite frankly, if you do, I'm sorry for you. I know how that works. It's just money after money in a bottomless pit. So Ethereum beam enhancements, it's not as bad as you'd think. If you deal damage with energy weapons, it grants 1 stack of Ethereum beam enhancements, and you can only get one every 2 seconds, so that slows you down a little bit. Each stack increases your energy weapons damage by 1% for a maximum of 15%. Now, I'm not sure if that's bonus or just straight. If it's bonus, that's a good thing. Bonus damage is always better if you can get it. But at 15 stacks, your next attack will cause a proton release on the targeted foe, 47,000. The chances of you needing 48,704 proton damage on much of anything is probably 0 unless you're doing something big, but still it's a guaranteed one shot on most trash mobs. They're gone. This one here, Twinkling Lights. Now this is why my weapons are Rainbow Bright flavored. And you look at these, I've got, let's see, we got Phaser, we got probably Disruptor, yeah, we've got Chronoton, that's going to be Anti-Proton. We've got the Romulan Plasma, one of the better guns. We've got Tetrion, which is one of the worst, but there it is. And he needs redone. Do you see his crazy accuracy ×2? And okay, I must have just got that one fairly new and I just ignored it. I forgot to fix I need to re-roll it. This one, damage ×3. Arc eats something up. That sucks, but he's my Polaron. And this guy doesn't help me at all for Twinkling Lights. It isn't in the list of things that are assisted, which is another reason I wonder if I wouldn't be better with a different set there. But moving on, there's got to be another Rep Omni I could stick in that to get my extra 2% and to engage Twinkling Lights one more time. So moving back to the traits, here's my Starship traits. Now, we've got Calm Before the Storm. That one came off of, I do believe, a carrier. It was a Cardassian carrier, I think, bought from the C-store. That's a very good one. It's really good in long fights, like when you're in a TFO shooting a lot of stuff. You gain 1 calm stack every 2 seconds. Each stack of calm gives +5 to all damage resistance rating. That can't hurt you. That's Stay Alive. Stay Alive is good to have as damage. You kind of need them both. And at 10 stacks, things turn around. It removes all stacks of calm, and here comes some haste. 33% firing cycle haste. That's one of the things we really need. And Bridge Officer abilities recharge 33% faster. Again, how can you go wrong there? These suck. The Yod Dot trait is the trait that you want for beam fire at will. Of course, because the devs finally put that in the game, they also had to find a way to capitalize it. If you look at your Starship traits here, most of you probably already have Withering Barrage. Why do you already have Withering Barrage? Because they throw it at you about 6 different ways. What is Withering Barrage? Well, if you don't somehow know, this is the extension trait for Cannon Scatter Volley. It is the one that makes your Cannon Scatter Volley be able to be up 100% of the time. And you can get it anywhere. Beamfire at Will has never had that trait, and when they finally did release it, what do? They stuff it in a lockbox because the people whined and the people complained, and they sat and thought to themselves, they're whining and they're complaining, they'll pay. They won't pay for this, though, because it comes 6 different ways free. Well, I'm just going to have to spend my event token on it for this guy because there's no way in the world I'm going to buy a lockbox ship for a trait. I don't care how bad I want it. That kind of griped me. I'm salty about that and will remain so for some time. So I've got the crap traits. Redirecting arrays, which... this is kind of stupid, really. You have to be taking damage for this to work. Now, if you're soloing or if you're in a pickup group doing, TFOs for the event, then yeah, you're probably going to take a few hits. But the fact that you have to be taking damage for this thing to work is kind of mentally deficient. And then you've got this, the worst trait ever made because it pretends to be the trait you need. Entwined tactical matrices. What is wrong with entwined tactical matrices? Well, it's like this. When activating torpedo spread, you get fire at will 1. Joy. And scatter volley 1, but nobody uses it. This was Cannon Scatter Volley. Gee, why would they not use this? Because they've got Withering Barrage, because they got it thrown at them 5 different directions. Well, so the long story short here is, instead of having 100% uptime on Beamfire at Will 3, you've got just under 50% uptime on Beamfire at Will 3, and then you get to have more of it at 1 for the other half. That sucks. Plus, there's a second reason this sucks. You have to slot a torpedo. Now, the problem with having to slot a torpedo is that the torpedo you end up having to slot is not the best torpedo you could be using. If you're using Beamfire at Will, you're expecting to be shooting to the sides. Well, torpedoes don't do that. This is a 180-degree torpedo and is a piece of garbage. It is one of the worst torpedoes available, except for one thing. It's a 180-degree targeting arc. You see there right under the blue. Well, whatever that color is. Let me see if I can make this more evident. Okay. 180-degree targeting arc. That means from the right side to the left side, this thing will shoot. And then there's a second thing, which is not going to be on this window. I have to go back to this one. And that is 2.5-second recharge. That's nice. You could spend a lot of money and get a different one like a Kelvin torpedo, but you'll be back to your 90-degree targeting arc, so you didn't gain anything because we don't care about the torpedo. The torpedo's not doing any damage. If it weren't for that trait making me jam a torpedo into this ship, I would be picking my own torpedo and not that one. If I was going to put a torpedo in, what I would be putting in this slot would be the dark matter torpedo. And why wouldn't I? Then I could get rid of this dual beam bank, and the only reason I have stooped so low as to use a dual beam bank on a broadsider is this thing has a 135-degree targeting arc, so it could be worse. I do get in positions where I'm not going to get a shot. 270 is a lot, or 250 is a lot better than 135. 250 is way better, but 135 is better than 90, and I have to have this torpedo, and I really want that two-piece. So if I could dump this and get the dark matter torpedo in this hole, because I don't need torpedo anymore because I got the Yod Dot trait that everybody should have been able to get off the C-store, well, there I am. So I've got to have this. That gets me the two-piece bonus that I showed you a while ago that is good to have. At least I think I did. Let me see here. More details. I'm sure I must have. Where is it? Yeah, plus crit. Yeah, I showed you that. Okay. So moving on back to the traits. So those two, you don't really have to have the damagey one, but you need to do everything you can do to keep beam fire at will up as much as possible. And, since the devs screwed us, that's where we're at. Now, here's this one. Broadside beam support. During fire at will or beam overload, well, I don't use beam overload because single target, you can only switch targets with a single beam so many times. The reason fire at will is good is that it fires on multiple targets, and multiple targets are dying. Firing beam overload at single targets makes great sense if it is one big single target. If you're doing advanced or elite queues, you might be able to use that. But anyway, during fire at will, the only one we care about, to a random target within 5 kilometers on your left or right broadside, they get a shot. 959.3 phaser damage per weapon firing activation per weapon. Now, weapon firing activation is when this thing circles over here, your little weapon indicator. Your beams may look like they're shooting 3 times, but that's just a special effect to make you feel big and powerful. You're actually, every time this thing circles, you're firing. So when you get a circle, you fired. The next beam activation is the next time that thing circles. Of course, if you've got considerable of them, that's a lot of weapons activations. That is a good trait to have for dishing out a little extra damage. Next thing we've got here, flagship staffing. Allied targets via command hull healing or shield healing or bridge, blah, 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 blah. Reset cooldowns on non-specific or non-specialist firing modes. That's a plus. But that's not the reason it's slotted. It's nice, and I like it, and I want it, and it's great, but that isn't it. 33% firing cycle haste. That's why it's in there. Now, on my spam bar, I have hazard emitters. I could also have put, down here on my engineering guy, I could have put whatever that one is for engineering. Engineering team or something that's kind of like tactical team. It's a heal. There's other hull heals too, I do believe. But the reason this is on here is when I hit that and I go looking over here, flagship staffing. So that means I got 33% haste every time that thing comes back. And because of Photonic Officer, Boimler effect, and a few other traits and things I have that reduce my cooldowns, I'm getting that up as often as I possibly can. So that is 33% firing cycle haste a lot of the time, and that's what we want. Down here we have the ruin of our enemies. That sounds like a good trait. Where could that have come from? What do you bet it's this ship? There it is. The ruin of our enemies. Let's have a look at that one. Now that one is the one I got with lockbox from the event, because there is no chance I'm going to gamble my life away trying to get this thing. Or spend MUD's prices. Good God. Anyway, when you defeat a foe, 3% bonus all damage. Bonus. That bonus is important. That is far better. It's put into the calculation in a different place, and it gives you a lot more horsepower. 3% bonus all damage for 20 seconds, stacks up to 100 times. Duration resets on trigger. Every fifth defeat, 15% recharge time to bridge officer abilities over 5 seconds. Well, the stacking bonus is great. And every fifth defeat minus 15% recharge time to bridge. Well, a little more recharge time reduction is good. I like it, but that ain't why it's even there. It's all about that damage. Now, this one here, and what's important is that 3% bonus damage is for each single shot. So that means the things you're trying to one-shot as rapidly as possible are more likely to get one shot when they've got 100 stacks of 3% bonus damage. 300% bonus damage by the time you're nearing the middle or the end of a complete wave of trash. Stacks 100 times. You can shoot 100 trash mobs in a TFO. Not many of them, but it can be done. Same goes for solo missions. When you're over here doing your missions from your episode list, and the ones some people rerun because they have a good reward, trash mobs are still trash mobs. They still need to die as quickly as possible. No muss, no fuss, send them out. The last thing I have installed here is emergency weapon cycle. On emergency power to weapons, minus weapon cost plus weapon firing speed. So you get 50% less weapon power cost. That's always a good thing, because the higher your slider is down here, the more power you have, the more damage you do. So you always want that weapon slider all the way up. And also, you get 33%. No, not that one. This one. You get 20% firing cycle haste. So more haste, always a good thing. So that's basically the ship traits. But let me scroll down here and show you that thing I mentioned earlier. We were talking about space reputation, and right here I think it is, yes, based on hull capacity. 5% critical chance based on hull capacity. Max is at 7.5. Well, I don't quite have that much hull capacity. 200,000 is quite a bit of hull. It can be done. I haven't done it, but it can be done. It would cause me to have to equip some different things. Let's see here. Precision, that's plus critical hit chance. Here's one. Self-heal on critical hit. That's an important stay-alive trait. What that does, these are my reputation traits. What that does is every time I crit, I get an incoming hull heal of 481.9. It doesn't sound like a lot, but believe me, it stacks up in a hurry. Then you've got magnified firepower, which is 6.3 bonus weapon damage, always a plus. And this one, increased crit severity. Well, that's a little tough to beat too. So we got increased crit chance over here and increased crit severity again. For my active ground, honestly, there's active space. There's not a lot of good stuff in here. It's all situational, and it's all, this one's good if you're parked. This thing makes a little shield bubble that heals you, and if you're parked and you sit in that little shield bubble, it might save you. And for solo content, that might even be viable, but most TFOs, sitting still is the opposite of what you should be doing. This one I've got slotted here, cloaks you, kind of. It's kind of useless too. This one is a AoE. It does a lot of Tetrion damage, which is only really important if you've got an endeavor to do Tetrion damage. 9,807 hasn't one-shot anything in its life, and by the time you've reached over to click this, you've already spam barred whatever you're looking at to death, so it's there. This little bubble here, good for hard targets, things that you're going to be shooting a long time, but in reality, by the time this thing has gone off, your beams have already fried whatever you were shooting at, so again, unless it's a hard target, it's not very good. This thing can be a good stay alive tool, and I keep it on the bar for that reason. This deploys a little sensor interface platform, it says, but basically what it does is it distracts things so you can get away or so that you can shoot them instead of die. What happens is when you fire this off, you get a little buoy that's floating out here, and the enemies are supposed to be attacking it instead of you, but the way taunt works, that's not always 100%. But whatever the case, it's when you're pushing this button, chances are you're about to croak anyway, and this may or may not save you, but it's better than not having a button to push, I guess. Okay, so what else? In our equipment, which we didn't fully go through, I'm going to show you a few other things. The Elite Fleet Intervention Protomatter Deflector Array. This is a good thing to have. And it is mostly a good thing to have because of... Scroll down to it. Let's see here. Now, I have rolled this into Stay Alive. I don't do EPG. I don't do black holes. And I mean, that stuff, you have to spec into it to really get anything out of it. You need to be an actual science guy. You got to get in your skills and pick the things that are going to make that kick butt. And then you've got to equip for it too. So I don't do that. Instead, I went with hull capacity because that's going to boost my damage back over here on that trait I was showing you a while ago. You've got shield capacity, which shields, yeah, they just aren't as good as you would hope. It's good to have shields. Don't get me wrong. It's good to have lots of shields. But compared to hull, shields really are crap. They've never really brought them up to the level hull is, insofar as keeping you alive. Your shields can get erased over and over, and you're going to be fine. Your hull gets erased, you're dead. Starship Impulse Expertise improves speed and turn rate. Why in the world does it have that? Who knows? But it's there. Starship Exotic Particle Generator, because you can't have more than one hull or shield, so that's why that's in there. You could have a lot more on it, though. It lets you put quite a bit more in. And then you got Starship Weapon Specialization, Improve critical hit chance with weapons. This skill increases the likelihood of landing a critical hit against your foes, which will inflict additional damage. Of course it will. And then Starship Shield Penetration. That's nice. Then you got 15% critical severity based on hull percent and another 4% critical chance, which you can always take more critical chance. That's why that's in there. I've got the 3-piece, what do they call this set? Basically, it's the Discovery set. It's from the Discovery rep. And the reason I've got the 3-piece will become evident in just a second. A lot of people run the 2-piece, and then they will replace this reactor with one of the Mud Store reactors. It's one that was from an event that I missed. I was away from the game for a while, and I just didn't get it. But let me see if I can find it right quick. It's the Mud's junk. And then we wait. There we go. The set is some kind of... Hey, what's on sale? That'll help me, because I think it's in here. Maybe not. Thought it was. There, Crystal Harmonic set, I believe. This is the one that has the reactor that throws out the little glowy rocks, and that's great if you're doing elites. If you're doing what I do, yeah, it's not that important. So the reason I've got this equipped isn't probably readily apparent, but I'll scroll down here and try to explain it. 120% hull regeneration for a 2-piece. That's okay. It's nice. It's not life and death, but it's good to have in a Stay Alive build. Then you get to set 3. Your first weapon attack against each target fires a bolt, and it says 5,000 damage, but I've seen that number higher. I'm not sure why. And then there's the skills that affect this ability. Now, what is set 4? Kinetic damage that scales with maximum hull damage. I've never used set 4. That would require me to have the deflector as well, I think. Is that what the 4-piece is? Core, engine, shield. And a deflector array. That's the thing I don't have. Yeah, deflector array. Well, frankly, the deflector array is kind of butt crack, except for whatever that fourth thing is, which 1 minute recharge sounds like crap, so it sounds like a clicky. If it's got a recharge, that's likely a clicky that does 21,000. Maybe it would be good for something, but nobody's going to equip that. I think almost everybody equips this deflector, so the 4-piece is out. But the 3-piece, that lightning bolt, that baby's going off all the time, because the next time you target something, remember with beamfire at will, if you've got your ship set to auto target, which I do because ain't nobody got time for clicking, you fire at one target is up here, it tells you you've targeted that, but 3 or 4 more things around you are getting hit. And so every time the thing you have targeted dies, your ship auto targets the next thing, and you fire another one of them lightning bolts. That almost guarantees the thing in this target window is going to be dead immediately, which allows it to retarget as quickly as possible. So this is a good thing. This is extra damage having that 3-piece set. Now, if you're doing big, heavy stuff, if you're doing elites, you're going to want to change that out for that other one. Now we move on down here a little ways. This we just got from an event, and that was nice. Didn't have to pay for it. I missed the Kobayashi Maru. I think that was an event thing, and I just missed it. This is basically the same thing as a red matter capacitor, except that this one adds radiation damage. It's 10% chance. It's not that big a deal. But if it does the exact same thing and has a proc versus does the exact same thing and does not have a proc, this is the better item. I used red matter capacitor for years. This thing came out, and of course I switched right to it. I'm using the Fleet Power Network Array. That is this one right here. And what that does it says targets your friends and yourself, friend and up to 12 pets they control for 35 seconds plus 50 to 125 directed energy weapon firing cycle haste. Here we go with that haste again. And there's, I think that's it. Yeah. What is this? Every 3 seconds, 60% chance to apply one of the following. That's crazy. Whatever that is, it's just randomly putting out some buffs, I guess. All right, moving on. I had forgot all about that. This one is my teleport. That is this. Now, there is a way to make this where you can fire this off and not have anything targeted or have yourself targeted or something and you just not move. Honestly, I find the movement very useful. When I am flying around in a pickup group in a TFO, there are times when you need to get from point A to point B in a big hurry. You know, you've just wiped out this pile of mobs, but that pile of mobs is 15K away. You just click a random mob in the group and mash that, and you're there, blasted. So honestly, I don't have a button to clear target, because if I can't do that and I really want to shoot this thing off, I can just target another person nearby and hit the button and target to them, because this will take you to a friend or an enemy, whichever you choose. I've got Domino here. That is, well, let's go in order. We'll come back to Domino. This is Lorca's console. It went with this here. That's from Discovery Rep also. All of this stuff's Discovery Rep, these three. That and this. This is a pretty good thing. 3.9% critical chance. Well, a little more never hurt. 7.9% weapon power setting. That is what jacks up this green bar here to beyond what you can see. It's still going. You just can't see it. What else does it have? It has other good stuff, I think. Shield penetration, 157.5. I don't know if that's very much or not. You don't really notice it. This I bought off the exchange. You can get it from lockboxes, so if you got a free key moment and you end up with one that gets you consoles, this is a good console to have. Halfway. 20% all damage. That's pretty hard to beat. And incoming heals exceeding max hull instead apply temporary hit points. Now, what does that mean? That means when you're mashing this thing or any other heal, and your hull is already healed, the white bar starts sliding up here. It starts filling up with white, which is like bonus heal. It's like, there it is right there. There it is right there. That is over healing, and instead of just being wasted, it's filling up your bonus health, so you're more increasing your hull strength. And I just wonder if that doesn't have any effect on those traits. Where was it? Down there. I don't know. It says 5%. Oh, well, it's already burned off. I don't have anything that's going to bring it up any higher. Well, anyway, it's entirely possible. I don't know if that counts bonus or not. I'll have to check that and get back with you maybe. Okay, so we're going back to our ship. That thing is a good thing to have. Hull image refractors. You really want to lay hands on that. This tachyokinetic converter came from the Lobby store, I believe. And this adds control expertise, don't care. Flight turn rate, nice, but don't care. 1.3% critical chance, that's nice, but that's not a lot. But 13.1% critical severity, that made it an instant slot. So I put that thing in for that, and the extra other stuff is nice. Then we got Domino. Excuse me. Domino is the king of kings here when it comes to more haste. 25% firing cycle haste. It only lasts for 10 seconds. That sucks. But you also get 25% bonus damage as if you didn't already have enough. 25% recharge speed is from this thing. Is it really? It sure is. And 100% recharge speed for torpedo weapons. Not sure how that helps unless you were a torpedo boat, but maybe it brings my 2.5 second recharge torpedo down. I don't see how it could. And if you defeat a foe, plus 2 second duration to all effects, well, you're going to defeat a whole lot of foes. It is best to press that button. It is best to press it right here. It is mash that button as you fly into a group and have hit fire at will and are evaporating enemies, because then you get to extend it for even longer and kill more enemies. So that's a plus. Okay, moving on up here, we've got, this thing is a must-have. This was from an event ship. If you missed it, I'm so sorry. You needed that. This thing needs to be slotted, for my build, in an engineering hole. And the reason for that is what we're shooting for is, let's see, where is it here? I'm going to have to look at the more details, I guess. Let's see if I can find it. It's meant to divert power from one of 3 subsystems to other parts of the ship. And diverting power from shields will boost your... Well, it's these 3 things right here. And you want them all on all the time. But I'm looking for the reason I want that in that particular slot. Here it is down here. This console can be equipped in any console slot. You may only equip one of these while in science console, while in engineering console, blah, blah, blah. The reason I want an engineering console is plus 20 auxiliary power and maximum auxiliary power. Shield power is a waste of time. Engine power, it could be argued if you wanted a little more engine power, if you needed more speed, but I'd rather have the auxiliary. And in a universal console slot, power transfer rate. Now, that could be argued well. It's possible that you might want that instead, especially if you don't have a lot of other means of increasing power transfer rate, because the more this weapon power gets beat down and the slower it is to come back up, the less damage you do. But anyway, all of these buffs that come with that, 1, 2, and 3, are a good thing. Every one of them is a trade-off that's in your benefit. You get minus 15 auxiliary power, but plus 5 critical chance. Well, that's a good thing. Here you have minus 15 engine power, but plus 15 critical severity. Again, that's a good thing. And then over here, minus 15 shields power. You're never going to miss it. Plus 20% weapon firing cycle. Haste again. Yes, we need lots of haste. And so that is a must-have. Okay, moving on. We've got, this is another Lobby Store thing that is, I think, a must-have. And that is Universal Console Bioneural Infusion Circuits. What does he do? Well, it's right there. Starship hull capacity. That's nice, but that's not why it's here. 29.5% control expertise. It's nice. It's not why it's here. 26.2% critical severity. Oh, that's why it's here. Yeah, that's a good thing. Now we got a console here that people will laugh at. This came from the greatest ship that was ever released. I mean, it is a beast. It was, I don't think it's even in the mud store. It's so bad, but it might be. It was a Kabali ship that we had during one of the events. And it was a T6 ship, and that's all it brought to the table. It was a T6 ship. It was the weakest piece of crap. It might have been good for a tank, maybe, if it could ever hold aggro. I don't know. But it had this as part of its tanky strategy to keep you alive. Regenerative integrity field. What that thing does is it gives you a big hull heal when you click it. But it also, it says receive 100% of your directed energy damage as healing for 10 seconds. So if you are pouring out absolutely ridiculous amounts of damage and this thing's turned on, you're healing for ridiculous amounts of damage. It's not bad. This thing here is kind of like an automatic shield heal. When you're below 90% on any shield facing, which if you're in a TFO or you're soloing is most of the time, if you're shooting, you're going to have some damage, surely. You get a 2.5% chance per shot to restore shields for 200% of your outgoing damage. So it's basically every time you fire your guns, you're going to be healing shield. Not a lot of shield, but it adds up if it's 200% of your outgoing damage. Now, this thing here, you might wonder what that's doing on here. That's that's another item from, and this thing came from, I believe a Dill Store ship, one of them, that you can buy for dilithium, a not T6 ship, like a T3 or Tier 4 or something. I can't remember which ship, but you Google that name right there, and you'll find out pretty quick. This thing here, the Swarm Processor, this is part of a Lobby Store plasma set. Well, I got a plasma weapon, but it's not a plasma weapon as part of that set. Why is this thing here? This thing is here because 3.9% critical chance. The accuracy rating, well, I mean, who misses, right? That's not really a thing. But 3.9% critical chance, that's a thing. That is an important thing. My last 3 holes here, which I could put other things in, I have just put isomags. Now, these are, as you can see, beams isomags. People will tell you, well, you need to have the one for your weapon damage type, like phaser or plasma. And they're right. That's exactly what you need to do. Unless you're flying a rainbow freaking ship with all these different colors. Then, all of a sudden, the ones that say beams are probably your best choice because these will boost every single beam that I have equipped. And a plasma one would boost this beam. A phaser one would have boosted this beam. So, much better to go this route if you're running the Rainbow Bright ship. Now, we're going to move back to, I think we did traits. We did equipment, DOFs. Now, granted, DOFs are going to be kind of nuts. I have not, as I said before, paid for any DOFs, but I did get some lucky rolls. This was one of them. Now, this thing is extremely expensive, and I could have sold it, but I thought, I'll use it because it's better than I got. It came out of a lockbox, one of those, click the little package and it poops out some DOFs. But it does some good stuff. Reduce the recharge time for attack pattern beta. That's on the bar. Attack pattern beta has a chance to restore hull when firing. That's a good stay alive thing. And activate 20% chance to activate fire at will 1 with each attack pattern beta. That sounds horrible. because that's exactly what this nonsense trade over here does. But it's better than no beam fire at will. And since I don't have 100% because they put that stupid trait in the lockbox when they give away the other one, you got to do what you got to do. So I went ahead and used it. This guy here, Hunter Irwin, I am almost certain, is from one of the duty officer missions at the little exploration nodes on your map. Let me see here if I can find that ain't I can't get to it from inside the system, but there's little nebulas out there you fly to, you do duty missions, and when you finally do them all, you can get a duty officer. The final mission is repeatable. You can get duty officers. I'm pretty sure that's where he came from. Chance to reduce the time to recharge torpedoes. Well, it's at 2.5 seconds, so yeah, faster is good. I can't go wrong there, because I need that torpedo to go off as often as possible to be able to reset stupid entwined tactical matrices. Think of the things I could take off of this bar if I had that other trait. All of this crap for torpedoes would be a prime start. Emergency guy, the emergency con officer, he came from the Phoenix prize packs. Recharges evasive maneuvers when emergency power to engines is activated. So that means I reach over here and click this. If my my evasive maneuvers is dead, I hit emergency power to weapons, and he's back. And when you're needing to get out of dodge fast, like when the crystalline entity decides it's going to pop and you're literally right on top of it, you mash that button and you go. Well, what happens to that button's grayed out? You reach over here and you mash that button, and it comes back, and then you go, because you need to get out of there. And there are many times when evasive maneuvers, you're still in combat, but you've got more mobs and they're like 12K away. Well, you're not going to be shooting them, and you're sitting there put in combat because you can't do much else. You mash that button, you'll go. All right. These things were giveaways quite a while back. They gave everybody these, and they were in the store under promotions, I think. I don't see them, but I know they're there. And I'm not going to look real hard for them. Take my word for it. They're in here somewhere. I believe it was there. It could have been personnel, but I don't think so. No, it wouldn't have been. It was a freebie, so it probably would be a legacy, maybe. I really should stop looking for this because I'm just wasting time. But it's in here. It was a freebie but if you weren't here for that freebie, you probably don't have them. They're not great. Toxic clouds from torpedoes. Well, if you're throwing torpedoes anyway and you don't have anything else, and I don't, to put in here, then that's nice. And then you've got secondary shields from tactical team. Yeah, I've got tactical team. I use it, and that's nice, but it fills a hole. That's the only reason it's there. Now, on the other hand, the ground is a little different. All of these things have come from mission rewards, or I think he came from one of those freebie promo packs, maybe. No, he didn't. Increased damage versus Undine. So that's a Tholian one. I don't know where he came from. I got him. I don't know where. This guy was, I'm not sure. That may have been from doing, Terran officer or Jem'Hadar officers. You know how they do the events, the Jem'Hadar event and the temporal event. And I think he was from the Jem'Hadar event, but I'm not positive. But he does damage to everything, so that's a plus. Space and ground, I do believe. Most of these are, even though they say increased damage versus Vodwar. This one says ground plus space. This one says War Master space, increased damage, and he's in the ground slot, so, if you can put him there, why not? Ground warfare specialist, damage increased against board. It says specifically ground, and it may be. I don't know. But if he is, well, he's in the ground slot, so it's not like you're wasting it. Same with this guy. Anyway, so that is my build. I've got, of course, your usual engineer skills and stuff here. But the important things are the things that might be different from one character to the next. Shield capacitor is useless, but I put it in there just in case I want to attempt to heal my shields on my way towards death, which really doesn't happen often. It's usually my fault when I die. I've clicked the wrong thing. But that's pretty rare because it's kind of hard to mess this up. Let me give you a little demonstration about how much damage this setup can do. I'm going to not click that button. Here we go. Patrols, we'll do everybody's favorite. No, I don't think it's in there. Is it Discovery? There it is. 9th rule. This is a good test. It's a good test because it is absolute swarms of crap. And what this can show you is how fast you can erase swarms of crap. So we're going to launch that. I'm going to show you just what it looks like when you can pour out a ton of damage on trash mobs. Now remember, this is trash mobs. Don't try this in Elite, folks. You will die. I do a lot of DPS, I'm sure. Yeah, we don't care what you have to say. You just shut up too. I don't like you. All right. Now we're going to take off here. We're going to hit all of our stuff. First thing you want to do is have everything I just clicked on. Of course, if you have a ship with the damage thing here instead of shield, that's what you want. So we're just tooling along out here. We're not going very fast because I'm saving anything I might need. I don't have to get there any faster. This isn't a race. This is about killing stuff, not how fast I can get there. And if you go too fast in this mission, you'll screw it up. That's kind of a bug. So we're going to get a little talky up here when we get to the green thing. Dum-de-dum-de-dum.
I thought I made myself that. Leave enough of their ships for now. I'll be under cloak. And now the Gnostics.
Okay, so we're just going to start erasing trash mobs. Then we want to stop right here. And the reason we want to stop right here, we're supposed to be going over there, and we will. But if you just take off that direction because you know where to go, this guy will never spawn. I don't know why that is, but if you jump the gun and get there before he pops up, it screws up the whole thing. Now we're going to have a swarm of trash roll in over here.
We've got
So again, I'm spamming my spam bar, getting everything lit. And I haven't used these yet because I don't need them yet. It's just trash mobs. They go away fast. I'm going to pull right up by this guy, come to a stop. We're moving again. You got to click that off as quick as you can so you can get in position, because where you want to be is right here. Now you get kind of broadside to these guys and you just start killing them. Let's see how fast this goes. Remember, crits heal you. So you like to see a lot of crit numbers. And I'm not even running this stuff. Let's turn some of that on. Why not? Got more loot than I can ever pick up. Now that I turned all that stuff on, they vanish in one blast. Look at that. See, that is what you're after. And it's wearing out. Some of that stuff's turning off now. I have to shoot them like twice. Hate when that happens. But yeah, this is basically the goal. The whole point is just to absolutely flatten the most trash mobs you possibly can in the shortest time. If you can one hit them, that's great. A lot of these are taking a couple of shots maybe. But that's the goal. That's what it looks like. Crit, 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 crit. Lots of crits. It's going to take me a century to pick up all this loot.
They're down to a few ships.
Yes.
Keep up the pressure.
So then it's just click the loot box, click the loot box, click the loot box, click the loot box.
Well fought.
Go
Well
away.
fought.
I ain't ready for you yet. I got to click the loot box. Anyhow, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. That's what I wanted to show you, is just how this works. It's really simple. And this is what I do to get rid of trash mobs while playing solo or in event TFOs.